quick test again. Can anyone hear me through this? Welcome back everyone. Stint number 5. 38 laps more to go with the 2023 Track Stars Touring Car Series. Of course, we know who the team and drivers champions will most likely be today. But of course, up for grabs is one of the crown jewels in the calendar, the St. Croix 1500, and Ryan Palmer getting the field underway with the restart on lap 1 of 38, and he'll lead the field in through turn 3. Of course, Andrew Lee following behind in second, driving the car of champion-elect in Ridwan Hamza. And then of course we've got Muffin in Aidan Halton just behind in third. So we're off to a relatively clean start. And we've got some of the front runners up towards the front of the field. Palmer just making a little bit of a mistake there. That's going to open the invitation for Lee to come ahead and try and take the lead. But of course, it's a bit single file there down towards turn 13. Run across the bridge for the first time, or quite literally probably the 102nd time for all of our teams here. Holton dives down the inside, bit of contact there between himself and Lee. Seems to be no damage to Lee, so they will probably keep going here. And now Lee will probably have to look for the likes of Ward and Austin behind, who will be very much eager to get ahead as they run 3 wide down the back straight. Austin, Ward and Lee side by side on the run down to turn 16. Who is going to come out in front? Ward takes a wide entry. Looks like Austin will come out in 3rd place, and Lee will still sneak through and grab 4th and minimise the damage there so far. So all of this definitely working into the hands of Ryan Palmer so far. 1.5 second gap the first time around. And he's really starting to build that margin out over Holton here as we have 1 lap complete in the final stint of the St. Croix 1500. The longest race of the season here in the Trackstars Touring Car Series, and the darkness starting to descend upon the St. Croix circuit. As we see Austin, he will now be closing in on Holton. Of course, Holton winning last year's St. Croix 1500 alongside Jerome O'Shea. Of course, that was with the CP Motorsports team. 1 year later, he is now running in 2nd for the WTC Racing 787 Lexus, and very much in contention to take the win here today. Of course, no mandatory pit stops, although I believe we'll probably see at least 2 stops from all drivers here in this final stint. I think the fuel levels will force that upon all drivers here. So we'll grab a look further down the field. Of course, Ward sitting in 5th place, Walker in 6th, and then a nice little pack forming here with Lashbrook, Hall and Patasso 7th, 8th and 9th. Patasso probably fallen down the order a bit from where he finished his 3rd stint, so he'll be looking to make a charge up the field, try and salvage a really strong finishing position here, and certainly have him as a contender for a top 5 finish, possibly even a podium result as well, as Hall makes use of the slipstream and overtakes Lashbrook down on the run to turn 16. Patasso also getting himself past his teammate, who obligingly opens the door for him to move ahead, obviously recognising the extra pace that Patasso has been carrying today. He certainly didn't want to hamper his progress at all, as that certainly could have probably costly consequences later on in the race if they fought too much. Could be the difference between a position or 2 later on. And Patasso now setting himself up for a run on Hall here, on the run to turn 1 and into turn 2. Looks like he is going to settle in behind through turn 2 and set himself up for a run onto turn 3. Gets a great exit and pulls alongside. Looks like he's moving ahead here. Now it's going to be a battle of the brakes here into turn 3. Patasso has the advantage of the inside line, and he gets that job done. Up into 7th for Patasso in the Mash Spuds Racing 32. Now he'll have his sights set on the number 964 WRT Nissan, who is just 2.7 seconds up the road now. But of course, 36 laps left in this race. Plenty of time for Patasso to get himself up the order. So further back we've got Gordok in 10th. Von Duve is a lap down, so he will be in 13th at the moment. And then we've got Wood. I believe Wood has probably had a bit of an issue here. It's forced him to the pits. Must have missed that one on the race start. So he's down in 11th. And with Burke, he is the last car currently on the lead lap in 12th place. Move back towards the front, and it's starting to get a bit close here at the front of the field with Palmer, Holton and Austin running very closely together. Austin getting a good run down onto this back straight. He pulls out of the draft and moves alongside of Holton. And again, it'll be a battle of braking down into turn 16. And Holton manages to hold on to second place there. So definitely thought that might have been a bit easier for Austin to make the overtake. But instead, Holton holds on the second. So it's Palmer from Holton, Austin, and then Lee round in your top 4 positions. And they are the 4 cars that you can see on the screen at the moment. Of course, a little bit further back is Ward, Walker, and Patasso, who will be featuring probably in the battle for the top 5 here. So Austin just sitting a bit further back this time around. Gap is about half a second between the two. So what will be very interesting to keep an eye out for is how these cars react as sun starts to go down and sort of get cooler conditions. Less sunlight on the track. Certainly the handling can very much change as the conditions change. As we noticed last year, the 95 was very dominant through the first parts of the race, and then come to this final stint, the CP Motorsport Nissans just found a little bit extra as the conditions changed, and it very much suited their setup much more, and they very much came to the fore and took the lead late on in the race. And you would say that the 95 wasn't really a factor in the closing stages of that race last year, so it looks like this year things are slightly better for the It's Racing Esports crew, as they certainly look a bit more competitive this time around in the final stint. But with that in mind, they still have some company in the form of Holton and Austin, who are all both looking very strong here in the final stint. And we definitely will see them feature in the closing laps of the race. Palmer just looked to go slightly defensive there, Not sure if that was just the line he was choosing to take into the corner. Certainly allowed Halton just to close in a little bit. And the gap now hovering around half a second. So Halton now crossing the line. Did set the fastest lap. That was quickly taken over by Austin. Moves into the low 305s. And now Halton just really closing up in Palmer there into turn 2. And the gap now under half a second. Looked to make a move there, but didn't quite have enough to get alongside. But Halton definitely looking like he can get himself within slipstream range. And that could possibly open up an opportunity either heading across the bridge to turn 14 or down the long back straight heading down to turn 16. Of course, at this point may not be quite as much about car speed early on and sort of just putting in those consistent laps, making sure that you keep off the walls, keep out of danger, set yourself up for the later stages of the race. Also, fuel conservation might come into play here. It might be better just to hang back, look after the fuel. That could possibly be what Lee is doing at the moment. It's just conserving that fuel, making sure that pit stop time is just a bit shorter than everyone else's, gain a second or two there in the pits. And then jump them in the pit stop as Austin gets into the draft, moves alongside Halton here on the run down into turn 16. Will we see a repeat of last time? Looks like Halton leaves the door a bit more open this time around, and Austin now moves into second place. Now Austin just running a bit wide there. Made things a bit awkward there for Halton as well. And that has allowed Palmer to build up that lead again out to 1.4 seconds. Now Halton and Austin side by side on the run to turn 1. Halton getting ahead, and he'll take second place into turn 2. And that has just dragged Lee a little bit closer to the pair of them at the moment. Austin just looked to be a little bit wide there. In through turn 3. Hasn't really affected him too much. He certainly looks to have the pace over Halton here. But Lee sneaks down the inside, and I think he's side by side with Halton. There's a bit of contact there. Contact between the 3 cars. Austin's made contact with Lee by the looks of things. And it's just gotten Lee out of shape and into Halton as well. Definitely not going to apportion any blame there. Could just be close proximity, few drivers sort of not aware of their surroundings. And could have very much just been a racing incident there. So Holton escaped without damage. Unfortunately for Lee, he's copped some front end damage here, so that's going to force a trip to the pit lane early on in this race. And a very long recovery drive ahead of him. And through all of this, it has put Palmer into the lead. Well, remained in the lead, but extended his margin. Yeah, Campbell obviously adding in the comments, yeah, moved over when he wasn't cleared. Of course, that's very much a possibility as well. Camera angle sort of didn't give us a exactly clear picture, so I'm sure if it was an issue, it'll be dealt with later on post-race, if there is any issue at all. But meanwhile, we'll direct our focus back to the racing in front of us, with Palmer leading from Austin. Then of course Holton sitting in third place, Lee into pit lane to repair that damage, and that puts Ward into fourth and Walker inside the top five. But here comes Pitasso down the inside, a little bit awkward there in the first turn. Of course, that Armco barrier right on the exit certainly makes things difficult. There's not really any kind of runoff there into turn 2, and sometimes it can just make things a little more tricky, as you sort of have to have some sympathy there for the driver alongside you. You can't just go stuffing them into the wall. But Pitasso down in turn 3 gets the move done. He's inside the top 5 now. Here in stint number 5 of the St. Croix 1500. So we're looking at 32 laps remaining here in the race. And Pitasso certainly making his way up the order very quickly. And the next target for him, of course, is Ward. 1.6 seconds ahead of him. Certainly curious as to where Lee ended up coming out. So he is in 10th at the moment. So he is 52 seconds back on the race leader. And he has gone for a full tank of fuel, so he is certainly going to set about trying to get creative with the strategy, get himself back on the same page as the likes of Austin, Holton and Palmer in the battle for the win. It'll be interesting to see if he has some extra pace over the top of Austin, Holton and Palmer, whether he can manage to make the plan B strategy work out for him. As we jump back to the front, Austin has closed that gap in under a second to Palmer. And Ward isn't really moving that far away from Halton as well, so meanwhile just a bit further back, Pitasso and Walker side by side on the run to turn 3. I think we've seen this somewhere before. This time around though, Walker getting a better run out of turn 3, so he still has the inside line and they're going to continue going side by side, but Pitasso holds firm around the outside and he will hang on to 5th place. Pitasso just running a little bit wide there. Thankfully no damage for him, but it has allowed Walker just to remain close. And he certainly has a bit of a slipstream here down as he goes across the bridge. Certainly very much closed up into the back of Pitasso's Lexus there. I think that wasn't far away from making contact with the rear bumper. And as we have the run down towards turn 16 on the back straight, Walker getting a very nice slipstream here. He will pull alongside Pitasso, but Pitasso very robust with that defence. Sort of right on the limit of escorting Walker off the track, or as wide as possible I should say. Not really off the track, but certainly made the task just a little bit more difficult. Certainly wasn't outside of the driving standards by any means, but certainly a very firm defence. Pitasso is just struggling to build that gap, just sort of running wide in here and there. And it's sort of keeping Walker in touching distance. Does it look like Austin had closed up to Palmer there a bit, but looks like he just made a small mistake. Just caught it on the screen, or on the track map, unfortunately. So Austin now got that gap underneath the second. Palmer though making good use of the clean air. Did sort of take that margin out a little bit further. Just got himself outside of the slipstream range, which was very crucial there in the battle for the lead. Of course, now we are down to 30 laps to go at the moment. And you could say with both championships wrapped up, it very much is all drivers putting it all on the line here for the race win. No real conservation of championship points or anything like that. It'll just be all the drivers going all out, doing their best to try and get race victory here. Gap is still staying sort of around that 0.7 of a second to a second margin. That being said, Palmer has used a bit more fuel than what Austin has, so maybe Austin's just settling in. Maybe trying not to use as much fuel. Get a bit of an advantage over Palmer at the pit stop. As we just noticed, Wood moving up into 8th place on the screen. So a nice little comeback there from the early misfortunes in the race. Lee effectively in 9th place as Von Duve is a lap down at the moment. And he will be relying on a safety car to get himself back into the lead lap. And then rounding out the top 10 will be Burke at the moment. We'll just head back to that lead battle. This gap nears half a second. Palmer still managing to stay far enough ahead of the slipstream to maintain the race lead. So Wood back into pit lane. He's picked up more damage, so things aren't going too great there for Woods here in the number 50. The gap has closed up there between Austin and Palmer here. Austin will be looking to maintain that gap sort of around the 0.3 of a second mark and really set himself up for a good run out of turn 15 and down the back straight. It's certainly starting to look a bit more racy here. So we have 10 laps completed, currently on lap 11 here in stint 5 of the St. Croix 1500. As Austin searching all over the back of Palmer, looking for a way into the lead of the race. So we head past turn 15 onto the long back straight. Palmer choosing to go on the defensive. Austin tucking himself behind the rear wing, moves ahead, and Austin will take the lead here. Palmer makes a bit of a dive here, gets himself alongside. A little bit of contact side to side there, but nothing too serious there. And Austin now maintains the lead of the race. So we have a new leader, car number 1, back in the lead of the race. And certainly a great way for Austin to complete the last race carrying the number 1, at least for the moment. As he now comes across the line in the lead of this race. And the margin out to a second already. I'll definitely be curious. So Lee has gained a second back on the race leader, so that'll be one to keep an eye out for. Be interesting to see how it all shapes out though. Last time around was a 1/10 of a second off of the fastest lap of the race. This time around only 0.06 of a second, so certainly a lot of pace there in the number 95, even with more fuel in the tank. But now Austin is in the lead and he'll be looking to build an advantage, enough of an advantage that he can hold on to the race lead. Do imagine that he probably does have a bit more pace in him now that he is out in clear air, as he's really taken that margin out over 2 seconds already. Halton sitting in third at the moment, 3.5 seconds back on Palmer. And then the field very much spread out amongst sort of the top 5-6 cars. So Lee effectively in 8th place at the moment, Burke in 9th. And then it'll be Lashbrook, Wood and Gordock rounding out the cars on the lead lap. And then 13th for lap down will be Von Duve. Von Duve will certainly be hoping for a safety car to come at some point. So lead for Austin now, 2 seconds. As now the headlights start to come on these Group 2 racing cars. And the darkness does start to fall over the St. Croix circuit. Of course, after viewing last year's race, doesn't quite get dark enough that we can't see the cars, so it will be still good to watch, especially throughout the final stint. Cars will remain very much visible. You'll be able to easily distinguish who's who on the screens, but we do get some little extra excitement, maybe some red hot disc brakes, and certainly some blue flames coming out the exhaust as we just saw from Austin earlier, as he's now got the margin out to 3 seconds over Palmer and a 3-minute free lap time last time around, so he is certainly matching the pace from Lee, who himself has put in a 3-minute 3.7, so just a couple of tenths of a second quicker than Austin, but Austin very much able to take the punches at the moment. Just a bit of running wide there through turn 14. I'm thinking that it is actually quite possible that you could get to the end on one stop, given that you start with 60 litres, so Austin could get at the pit stop and sort of looking around 15-16 laps on a tank of fuel. So you could certainly fuel up with the extra 40 litres and take it to a 100 litre tank. You probably quite easily get an extra 6 laps for the second stint. So Austin counteracting Lee's fastest lap with a 303.7 of his own. So he's certainly got the pace here to match Lee's lap times. Palmer just falling off the pace there a little bit compared to Austin. And he is actually kind of falling into the clutches of Halton here a bit as well, as Halton now has that margin down under 3 seconds at the moment. Ward just falling back from Halton. Margin is 4 seconds over Pitasso though. And he's starting to run low on fuel here. Walker actually a bit closer to Pitasso than what Pitasso is to Ward, so I wouldn't say it is a battle pack though, as Pitasso just does have that margin out to 2 seconds. And then you look a bit further back, of course Hall running in 7th. Fortunately, only one car available to take the race for AGU Motorsport. Unfortunately, the second car not deemed fit to race today. So that margin between Lee and the race leader is about 52 seconds again, so sort of looking more in the advantage of Austin at this point. As Lee does have what is effectively a lap car of Von Duve to contend with there. Not sure if that has caused dirty air at all or anything like that. However, looking at things, you would probably say Lee may have just had a bit of a slower lap there. So Holton just closing in a bit. So Wood down in effectively 11th place here. Certainly not having the run we would have expected from him. A few mistakes have happened across but all of his stints today. Did manage to salvage a top 10 finish in the first stint. And was also inside the top 10 for stint number 2 as well. Unfortunately, still struggling here in his third stint of the day. Certainly not where we would expect the former Trackstars Touring Car Series champion to be at this stage of the race. And of course our 2021 St. Croix 1500 winner alongside Austin, of course, who is leading the race at the moment. So Wood trying to chase down Lashbrook here for a place inside the top 10 as Palmer and Muffin both diving towards pit lane for their pit stops. So quite a few drivers into pit lane for their stops. Of course, Palmer, Holton, Ward, Walker, all in the pits. Can add Hall to that list as well. Holton back out onto the track. Looks like he's going for possibly a two-stop strategy here. So he's jumped out of the pits. Hasn't filled all the way up with fuel. Lee has a slight bit more fuel than Halton at the moment. Halton, of course, on fresher tyres and a 5-second gap, so I'd say that Austin would comfortably rejoin in the lead. Palmer rejoining the race in 5th place at the moment. He has gone for a full tank of fuel, well, close to a full tank of fuel. Certainly quite possible that he has fueled to the end of the race. Be interesting to see what Austin does do when he makes his pit stop, which I imagine will be taking place very shortly here as he lays down the purple sector there, approaching the end of, I believe that's sector 4 there. So I would predict that he'll probably be into the pits this time around. Now the big question will be, how much fuel does he take? Does he go for a 2-stop strategy, or does he fill up and go for the 1-stop? So Austin diving into the pits now. Pitasso also into the pit lane. So it looks like Austin going for an extended stop here. Looks like he will be fueled till the end of the race. And interestingly, he does come out ahead of Halton as well. So now lap 17 of 38 here in this final stint. Stint number 5 of the St. Croix 1500. As we do close in on the halfway point of the stint. It is Austin leading the way from Halton. Then 3rd place is Lee. And then it's Palmer, Pitasso, Ward, Walker and Lashbrook rounding out your top 8 at the moment. Wood sits in 9th with Hall in 10th for AGU Motorsport. And then, unfortunately, Von Duve a lap down in 11th, which will be 13th then. So it'll be Burke in 11th and Gordock in 12th. Interestingly, does look like the gap is decreasing in parts between Halton and Austin. So Halton could be, well, I guess it would be part of his strategy. He would need to overhaul Austin and take the lead and work on building a bit of a margin here. Try and get himself a bit further up the road. And try to take he'd at least need a gap over Lee. possibly in the battle for a podium or top 5 place. Tasso has over 3/4 of a tank of fuel, so I think he's aiming to go towards the end of the race. Looks like the likes of Halton and Lee are probably aiming for a 2-stop strategy. To get us to the end of the race. So that margin is staying steady between Austin and Halton. But it is decreasing between Lee and Halton, so Lee very much on the charge here. Not sure if he has enough fuel to make it to the end though. He does have more than what Halton does. So definitely would be interesting to see if he can make it to the end of the race. I don't believe he does have enough though. So Lee definitely closing into the back of Halton. Definitely not close enough to make a move into turn 16 though. But Halton running really wide there. And that has allowed the margin just to close up a little bit more again. And Lee is in the wall. He's just pushed a little bit too hard there and he's in the wall, taking damage. And that is going to be another trip to pit lane for Lee. And I do believe that's unless something does happen to Austin, I think that's going to really put an end to his charge for victory. Certainly going to take a lot of luck to get himself back into contention for the win here. And with Lee also taking on some fuel, I assume that that's going to take him to the end of the race. So yeah, I don't think he's certainly going to take a big effort there unless the likes of Austin, Halton and Palmer all still need to make another pit stop. So Lee rejoins in 7th place, just ahead of Lashbrook and Wood. I am slightly surprised. I would have assumed, well, I would have presumed that Wood would make his way past Lashbrook by this point. No discredit to Lashbrook's abilities, but certainly Wood is a very fast driver. That being said, Lashbrook certainly holding his own here and doing a fine job here today. Lee only marginally gaining ground over Lashbrook, so that could also be tyre coming up to temperature early on. So Pitasso up into 4th place. He has moved ahead of Ward. Definitely missed that one on screen, so apologies to Nick there. Didn't catch you moving ahead of Ward, but certainly doing an excellent job here. Certainly hasn't done it easy today. Come from 2 laps down to be in 4th place at the moment. As Austin now coming around the final corner, he'll complete lap 19. We will officially be halfway through the 5th and final stint of the St. Croix 1500. 19 laps remaining here, 19 laps completed, and just under an hour is the race time so far for this final stint. So we're looking roughly at another hour of racing still to come. As we just see Wood now moving ahead of Lashbrook. Lashbrook has made a mistake here somewhere, as he has got a lot of damage on that car. About all that he hasn't got is the engine damage, unfortunately for him. That could have brought him back into contention with a safety car, along with many others that would have been hoping for a safety car as well. So Hall moves ahead into 9th. I think Lashbrook will come out in 10th place. Austin continuing to build that margin, so he's gained a bit over a second on Halton since he's left the pit lane from his pit stop. So Halton just losing a bit of ground here. Certainly, I definitely feel like he needs to make another stop. He had significantly less fuel than what Lee had after Halton's pit stop, and Lee had to refuel, so I don't think Halton might actually figure in contention here for the win. Certainly at this stage it's looking like Austin certainly has the race very comfortably at the moment. Of course, anything can still happen though. Safety cars can throw a bit of a curveball into the race. But if it stays green till the end of the race, you'd certainly have your monopoly money on Austin here for the race win at the moment. As Palmer has very much dropped off the back of Halton here. It's over 15 seconds back. I think that larger fuel drop has probably affected some handling as well, and some speed here on the It's Racing Esports 96. That being said, he is also losing a bit of time here to Pitasso, so Pitasso could be making a challenge for third place here. Maybe not this time around, but very much later on in the race. So Ward currently running 5th at the moment. Certainly been a bit more of a quiet race from Ward. Certainly hasn't been in amongst the action like some of the other competitors have today. Certainly a very good run here from the RoboSport racing car. Has the car well and truly in the top 5 in the RSR farewell race. So we definitely got a bit of a sideways moment there from Ward. Heading out of turn 13, going across the bridge. Certainly a source of action for many drivers. Run too wide there and you find yourself slamming into the side of the bridge essentially. And a very troubling, well, a lot of damage you will cop from that. And a long trek back to pit lane to get it all fixed. Austin still about a 3-second margin. Looks like Halton has gained a bit of time there on him. Certainly the pace has been a little bit slower this stint. I imagine a bit more of a conservative approach there from Austin. I would imagine that he is conserving fuel a little bit, maybe to try and ensure that he makes it to the end of the race. As you see, Palmer in third. He has gained a bit of time back on Pitasso, so he has responded. Certainly a lap or two ago we would have had Pitasso maybe mounting a challenge for Palmer in the later stages of the race. But Palmer has certainly responded and taken that margin out to about 8.5 seconds. Certainly field has spread out a fair bit. So a quick rundown, obviously Austin and Halton leading, Palmer sitting in third, Pitasso currently in 4th place. Quick flash of the headlights there from Pitasso, not sure if that was intentional or maybe just bumped the button on his controller. And then we have Ward sitting in 5th place, rounding out the top 5. And certainly one driver put in a fine effort today has been Walker. his co-driver, and myself certainly didn't make it easy for him at all today with a few costly mistakes, but Walker seems to continue to get that car up the order. I think that's probably one of the great traits from Walker, actually, has been that he sort of keeps it consistent, doesn't set the timesheets ablaze with fast lap times, but he's usually the one keeping it on the straight and narrow and keeping out of trouble. Finds himself in plenty of top 10, top 5 positions as a result, especially in some of the longer races. It sort of pushes him towards the front through his consistency, and certainly a great trait needed for some of the endurance racing we see in the Trackstars touring cars, although at the moment the raw pace of Lee and Wood is probably going to overhaul him here. Lee, I'd say he will definitely be fueled to the end now, as he closes in on 6th place. Then we have Wood sitting in 8th place, about 5 seconds back from Lee. I'd certainly expect him to jump up the order a bit towards the end. Hall currently sitting in 9th. Fondue for lap down. It is instead Lashbrook in 10th for now. But we have crossed over to a battle here. Burke pulling out of the slipstream. Bit of contact there between the two. And Burke running a bit wide. Lashbrook holding on to P10 there. Burke will certainly have to look for another way around. And then 12th place is Gordock in the number 151. Bit of a lonely race here. It looks like he is about to go a lap down on the leaders. So Horton is actually closing the gap here again, as Austin just gives a bit of a flash of the lights, lets Gordock know that he is approaching behind. Gordock just moving to the side and allowing the race leader to have a clear passage through. I imagine at this point he'll probably oblige and give the same treatment to Horton as well. I think generally from Gordock, sort of see some very respectful racing, and yes, he quickly jumps out of the way, gives Halton the same passage through that he has given to the race leader. No funny games here from Gordock. Palmer has just continued to grow that margin a bit. He's on the pause menu. That's a bit weird by the looks of things. He's got the hazard lights on. Pretty sure that's the pause menu. Unless we have a call for a safety car coming through. Doesn't look like anybody should. Doesn't look like anyone has engine damage, so not sure what was going on there. He has certainly lost a bit of time there. About 4 seconds to Pitasso. Didn't see a message show up on the screen, so maybe something else has happened in the car. Maybe something has gone wrong and that he had to address quickly. But it has certainly allowed Pitasso to close that gap nearly to 5 seconds. Meanwhile, Pitasso has Ward just a second behind, so the battle for 4th place is picking up slightly. So definitely have a fair few watching along on the stream. Definitely make sure you leave a comment. Let us know where you're watching from and which car you're cheering on in today's race. Maybe who you even think might win the race as well. Certainly love to hear your thoughts on the race taking place. As we see Pitasso lap 24 of 38 in this 5th and final stint here in the St. Croix 1500. Round 13 of the 2023 Trackstars Touring Car Series. Of course, the grand finale to the series. And certainly the field has spread out a fair bit. Red One, of course, watching from behind the wheel of the safety car, going for the guy in P14. Of course, I think that guy in P14 has a pretty good chance of winning the championship, even from the safety car. He certainly put in his share of laps today. And certainly some strong results throughout the day as well. Unfortunately, hasn't quite panned out the way he would have liked in the final stint for himself, Lee and Candonolian. But a 6th place finish will certainly be more than enough to secure the championship for Red One. So gap still around a second between Ward and Pitasso in the battle for 4th. Just noticed that it has started decreasing again between Palmer and Pitasso. Definitely no damage to Palmer's car, so maybe just caught off guard a little bit here. Maybe some outside issues taking place that are affecting his driving at the moment. He just runs wide there at turn 14. And that's allowed Pitasso just to take a big chunk of time out of the margin there yet again. So Palmer might just need to focus up a little bit here. Get himself back into the groove of things. and try and build that margin all over again. Make sure that he can survive any late race attack from Pitasso or even Ward. Gap between Lee and Ward is down to about 7 seconds. And I did notice off screen that Lee has moved ahead of Walker. So Lee will be moving towards a top 5 finish, possibly, depending on how the final 14 laps of this race go. Lee, of course, moving ahead of Gordock to put him a lap down as well. Or to move ahead of, a lap ahead of Gordock himself. Now Lee certainly putting in some fast lap times here. Very much taking a huge chunk of time away from Ward in that last lap. Ward himself has just fallen off a little bit from Pitasso and in the process has fallen off the track, and that's going to cost him a bit of time here, as you see that margin now decreasing between himself and Lee, nearly about to drop below 5 seconds between the two, as Pitasso now just moving that margin towards a 3-second gap as well. So definitely not the outcome Ward would have wanted. Very easy to make that mistake there. You sort of got the car really loaded on the right hand side as you approach the braking zone. If you just don't judge that braking zone correctly, you can find yourself washing out into the gravel and costing yourself a huge chunk of time. So Lee definitely closing in on 5th place here. And certainly that mistake from Ward wouldn't have helped Ward's case. Certainly would have been an extra incentive there from Lee to try and overhaul Ward in the battle for 5th. Austin still out in front, still about a 3-second margin. It sort of has been fluctuating between 2.5 to 3.5 seconds, sort of depending where on the track the driver is and sort of what kind of times are produced each lap. You can see the lap times are sort of decreasing as the stint goes on. It's certainly been a conservative stint here from Austin, but it's exactly what is needed to make sure this race is completed with 1 pit stop. And he's certainly doing a fine job of achieving that at the moment. Holton getting a bit further down on fuel. I do have to wonder if he will need to make a 2nd pit stop here. I think he could still come out ahead of Palmer if he did that. Palmer is sitting down in 3rd. Of course, he's 25 seconds back on Holton, sorry. So Holton could have a margin for that 2nd pit stop and still come out in 2nd place. Certainly imagine he would certainly be in contention for that podium place based on the pace he is showing. Pitasso just getting that margin down to about 4 seconds now. Certainly closing that in ever so slightly. I think the one we'll have to keep an eye on at the moment will be the battle between Lee and Ward. I think that is the closest battle on the track at the moment, so we'll jump to that one as Ward just runs wide onto the bridge. And that was probably a much easier battle than we were expecting between Lee and Ward. So Lee, courtesy of the mistake from Ward, now jumps into the top 5. The thankful thing for Ward though is he doesn't have any damage to his car at all, so he was very fortunate with that one. He has gotten away with it. He does live to fight another day. And certainly you would have him possibly holding on to that 6th place, but certainly well entrenched in the top 10 if he can keep things on track, avoid any damage in the last 12 laps. So now next up for Lee, it is Pitasso in the number 32. And the gap dropping below 5 seconds rather rapidly. Certainly Lee is on a mission here at the moment. Certainly don't think he's going to have enough to overhaul Austin here in the last 11 laps, but certainly he'll be on for a podium here on current pace. Palmer has just pushed that margin back out to nearly 5 seconds, so he has noticed that margin decreasing, started to get a wriggle on there, build that margin back out again. And certainly at this point, Pitasso might be starting to just look in that rearview mirror and seeing the headlights of the Nissan GTR from the 95 actually, just growing ever larger in that rear vision mirror. Depending on what kind of mirror he has, he might just flip it back and dim it down a bit, completely ignore it. But it might become hard to ignore very soon, as Lee is punching in some fast lap times as he carries on the charge towards the front. Might just jump on board with Lee at the moment and get an inside view of a hunt down for 4th place. And we'll ride alongside of him for a lap of the St. Croix circuit as we tick over into 10 laps remaining here in the 2023 Trackstars Touring Car Series and round 13 of the St. Croix 1500. So definitely a bit of a mistake there from Pitasso as he got to turn 14. Just ran a little bit wide. It's allowed the margin to close up between himself and Lee. And Lee certainly will be sensing an opportunity here to try and move into 4th place as we see Wood into pit lane at the moment. Just by the looks of things, the margin between Lee just a bit too late on the brakes, nearly runs into the back of Pitasso there into turn 3. And just looking at the map though, looks like the margin has closed in between Austin and Muffin there, or Halton as we should refer to him. And Lee makes a lunge down the inside. Definitely did not expect the move there, but he has managed to get alongside Pitasso, and he has the inside line here for the next corner, so he gets the move done, and he's now up into 4th place. Pitasso will now be looking to hang on to the back of Lee, maybe try and mount a counter attack here, either on the run between 13 and 14 or between 15 and 16. But a gap now out to 0.8 of a second. I think Lee has done enough to escape the slipstream. And Pitasso probably won't be getting the benefit of the draft down this straight. Just jump back to the front. So margin between the first two cars here is 1.2 seconds. I do believe that Halton does need to make another pit stop though. So I don't think this really is much of a battle going on as it appears on the screen. And yes, Halton does dive into the pit lane. So that will be his final pit stop. Interestingly, will he change tyres here? No, he doesn't change tyres, so it'll be a splash and go here for Halton to make the end of the race. So Halton rejoins. He does rejoin in second place. And the gap about 7 seconds to Palmer. Although that has quickly dropped down as Palmer is carrying the extra pace here. This could set ourselves up for a bit of a thrilling conclusion here, as we will have Halton, Palmer, Lee, possibly even Pitasso all fighting it out, and we have engine damage. So that is going to bring out the safety car and set us up for the finish to the race. We have 8 laps to go, so this will most likely be the last safety car of the race. And suddenly the field gets bunched up for the final 7 laps of the race. Although that being said, it will quite possibly be probably more of a 4 or 5 lap sprint to the end. And there we have Halton out on the track. Sorry, not Halton, Hamza actually. Certainly said Halton a bit too much today in amongst all the battles that he's been involved in this last stint. So definitely Austin's still very much in the box seat here. I'd say in comparison, still has some relatively fresh tyres, will still be able to extract some performance out of them compared to Lee. Lee has to get ahead of 2 cars before even thinking about getting to Austin. Palmer and Halton, they have significantly more wear on their tyres, and they certainly haven't really been a match for Austin at this point. Austin is going to head to the pits and grab a new set of tyres by the looks of things. Certainly a smart strategy with the lead he has in hand. So, not sure what's going on there. That definitely looks extremely odd there. And the leader has disconnected. Incredible scenes here. Here we were expecting a very simple pit stop for Austin, new set of tyres to go to the end of the race, and all of a sudden we have got a disconnect here. with 7 laps to go. I would think that does bring out the red flag. But we will see what ends up happening here. And just like last year, actually, a late race red flag leaves Halton in the lead of the race. This time for WTC Racing. So our current order is Halton from Palmer, then Lee, and then we have Walker, Patasso, Ward, Wood, Hall rounding out the top 8. What has happened before Patasso? Yep, so Patasso has given a red flag command, and of course he has jumped up to the lead. So we're going to have a 6-lap race till the end on this restart. And of course it will be Aidan Halton leading the way in the 787. Then it'll be Palmer in the 96, Lee in the 95, then Walker in the 964. Rounding out the top 5 for the restart will be Patasso, then it's Ward in 6th, Wood in 7th, and it'll be Hall in 8th, Lashbrook 9th, Burke in 10th, then it'll be Gordock and Von Duve in 11th and 12th getting their lap back, and then unfortunately the race leader will drop to being a lap down. Alright, so we're getting ready to go back racing again. 6 laps left in the 2023 season. And with both championships wrapped up already, you can be assured that these final 6 laps, there will be nothing left on the table here. as every driver will be desperate to add one more victory to their tally for the 2023 season. And it will be Halton to lead the way to the green, or to the restart zone. It'll be the 787 WTC Racing Lexus in the lead, followed by a pair of It's Racing Esports Nissans in the form of Palmer and Lee. Then it'll be WRT Motorsport 964 Nissan with Walker, and then Patasso in the number 32 Mash Spuds Racing Lexus, Ward in the number 20 RoboSport Racing Nissan, as we get ready to go racing under Halton's command. And he accelerates away. A few drivers trying to anticipate the start, and a few cheeky dives coming into turn 3. Halton leading the way, Palmer and Lee second and third, Patasso and Walker side by side. Oh, contact there between Patasso and Walker. Patasso's been pushed wide. Walker takes fourth. Wood is sneaking through. He's going to come through into fourth place. He will be the leading hope for CP Motorsports here. 6 laps to go. And so it is at the moment Halton, Palmer, Lee in the top 3. Then it's Wood, Walker, Patasso, Ward and Hall rounding out your top 8 on the screen. Bit of a wide entry there from Palmer. Lee getting a good run out of turn 13 on the run down to turn 14. Lee takes a look to the inside, thinks better of it, and they are nose to tail for the first 3 cars here, with 6 laps to go here in the St. Croix 1500, and the red flag restart putting everyone on equal terms. And engine damage there from the number 1 and the safety car just in time for the cutoff for the safety car. So not sure what's happened there, but Wood has moved ahead after the safety car call. So probably would say that he does need to give that spot back to avoid any penalty. So it looks like that situation at least has been rectified. Apparently, who knows, maybe there might have been more going on as well. But it is Halton leading the way still, as we're going to cross over into 4 laps to go. So this very much will be the last safety car period of the race. I do imagine the safety car will be in this time around, as I'm sure Austin will catch up to the back of the pack in this next lap. So it will be Halton leading the way. One of the defending champions of the St. Croix 1500. Of course, Duram O'Shea, his car currently sitting in 4th. Also a possible contender for the win, depending on the outcome of the last few laps. And of course, Wood, the 2021 champion. So could we get our first 2-time winner of the 1500? Or could we get 2 drivers being the first 2-time winners of the 1500? Or even still, possibly have a fresh set of winners here to take victory for the first time here in the St. Croix 1500. Of course, the final round here of the 2023 Trackstars Touring Car Series. And we currently have 4 laps to go. Safety car will be in this lap and will set us up for a 3-lap sprint to the end of the race. field very much closely bunched together. Definitely wouldn't want a sudden stop there from any driver. Certainly a bit too close for my liking. There'd certainly be the potential to cause some damage here as we start to get ready to go back racing again. Definitely has been a marathon day, as Sandwith has mentioned in the comments there. Crossing over to 136 laps completed, just 3 more to go. Started at 9:30 this morning. And we have crossed over to 7 p.m. So close to 9.5 hours of racing already. Still 3 laps left to go. So Halton will lead the field around to the restart. Palmer right on his tail, ready to make the jump. And Halton launches into action immediately, with Palmer following in the slipstream. And the run down to turn 1 and 2. As Palmer closes in, does he make a dive for the lead? No, he doesn't at this stage. So they come through in single file. A bit of a wide run there from Halton out of turn 2. And Palmer has the run on him here, down towards turn 3. And in the slipstream, Palmer pulls out, tries to move to the right. Nothing going there. Halton runs wide, they go side by side. Palmer moves ahead. Palmer is into the lead of the race here. And Lee's run tries to go side by side with Halton, but can't get the job done. And now it's a three-way battle for second place here. Lee dives down the inside, just shoves Halton a little bit wide, and that opens the door for... Oh, there's contact between Wood and Lee. Not sure what has happened there. And that has quite possibly seen both cars drop out of the race. So Wood down into 11th. Lee, or Wood now into 12th. Wood has addressed that situation, and it is Palmer now in the lead of the race from Muffin. Pitasso in 3rd. Muffin all over the back of Palmer here. 3 laps to go. So Palmer leading the way down the straight, goes on the defensive. Muffin in the slipstream, or Halton I should say. So Palmer on the defensive, takes him out wide, bit of contact there. And Palmer holding on to the lead there through turn 16. And now Palmer building a bit of a gap there, making use of the clean air and distributing the turbulent air to the cars behind. Builds out a bit of a 7/10 of a second margin. Now growing out to 9/10 of a second. He'll come across the line this time by 2 laps to go. And it'll be Palmer in the lead, Halton second, Pitasso third, Walker in fourth. Ward sits in fifth place, and then it's Von Duve in sixth, Austin seventh, Hall in eighth. And then at the moment you've got Lee in ninth, Wood 10th, Gordock 11th, and then Burke, who's in pit lane, but that will now be Lashbrook over in 12th. So second gap between Palmer and Halton at the moment. And Palmer definitely getting the running legs on and trying to dash out of here. So gap has closed down a bit here. Six-tenths of a second between Palmer and Halton. So Palmer still managing to hold on here to the race lead. Still a six-tenth of a second gap between Palmer and Halton. And then Walker in fourth. Coming under pressure here from Ward. And we come across the line. 1 lap to go here in the race. And it is Palmer leading the way with Matt Simmons. Of course, Simmons and Palmer together have won the Kyoto and High Speed Ring 500. They've won the Bathurst 1000. This one still left on the list to win. And it's just 1 lap to go between Palmer and Simmons and the St. Croix 1500 victory. And of course, Halton and Scott will want to do something about that as well in the last lap. And they're very much within touching distance of the race leader. Palmer is going to need a very complete lap here to hold on to the race victory. And Halton is applying all the pressure, closing into the back of Palmer here on the final lap. Gap now down just to 3/10 of a second. Halton right on the tail of Palmer, now 1/10 of a second, right on his bumper. Palmer now has to do some defensive driving here. Really needs to start building a gap here as he heads across the bridge through 11 and 12 into turn 13. A little bit wide there on the entry and a little bit of a slip on the exit of the corner. Halton remaining composed, applying the pressure here to Palmer. And Palmer now coming out of turn 14 through into turn 15. and he really needs a great exit here from turn 15 onto the back straight, and he has built out a 6/10 of a second margin. Will that be enough here, or does Halton have the slipstream to get ahead and take the win? The gap is slowly closing. I don't think it's going to be enough though. We'll see what it is at the end of the straight. Doesn't appear to be enough. Palmer hangs on to the lead through turn 16. Keeps that 6/10 of a second margin here. And now it's about a clean run to the finish line. No mistakes here from Palmer. And he will take victory in the biggest race of the season. The longest race of the Trackstars Touring Car Series. And so, in a season that it might have been all about the 95 of Hamza and his cast of co-drivers, it will be Ryan Palmer and Matt Simmons who crossed the line to take victory here in the St. Croix 1500. Halton and Scott will come across the line for a fine second. Patasso, a brilliant comeback drive there from 2 laps down, and he'll take third place with Dowswell, and then fourth place will be Walker, helping myself into the top 5, definitely carrying the team there. Then it'll be Austin and Campbell in 5th, Warden Green in 6th, Von Duve and Taylor in 7th, Lee, Hamza and Condonalian in 8th. Then it'll be Hall, Costa Rock and Fafatellis in 9th. Then Wood and O'Shea in 10th. Gordock and Oldman in 11th. Will be Lamb and of course Lashbrook coming across the line. And then unfortunately the last of our finishers will be Burke and Harcourt. So a 13th place finish for one of the RoboSport racing cars in their final race as a team before it is rebranded. And of course a 6th place finish as well for the second car. But of course big congratulations to Palmer and Simmons on taking the victory here today. And of course also an extended congratulations to Ridwan Hamza, who claims the series championship here today. It has been a very long day here. We'll just grab the replay quickly, so we get a quick rundown of the results screen. So there we go. Has been a thrilling conclusion to the 2023 Trackstars Touring Car Series, and of course round 13 in the St. Croix 1500. Of course, Ryan Palmer there dropping a celebratory burnout there, and he will be absolutely thrilled with the victory. Certainly know he's come across plenty of criticism in the past of being carried by Matt Simmons, but he's jumped in the car for the finish of this race and taken the car to victory himself, probably putting some of the doubts from the critics to rest in doing so. So from myself, of course, we've had a great season here with the Trackstars Touring Car Series, and we certainly thank everyone for tuning in across the entire season. Everyone else, all the volunteers who have put in their time and effort to keep this series running, and of course all the drivers and team managers who help make this series what it is. Of course, we'll be taking a bit of a break here at the end of the season. But meanwhile, the work will continue amongst the admin team as we go to work putting together a series for 2024. So in the meantime, stay tuned on the Discord server and our Facebook pages for any announcements regarding series for next year. Of course, I believe we'll have the Porsche Cup, of course the Formulas and the touring cars returning. Of course, the touring cars will be the 10th anniversary season of the Track Stars Touring Car Series. So from myself, Jarman Dalitz, and everyone else here at the Track Stars team, thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you soon.